Hey, how you doing, windsurfing world? Back after that long-term JP Superlight Wind review to give you a review of a different board, a foil board that I got a year ago. It is the Levitator, the Slingshot Levitator 160, and you can see that here. Slingshot, and it's the 160 version. So this is the largest slingshot board that they make, most volume for now, and the longest. I think it's about 7 feet long, whatever that is in centimeters. It's 34 inches wide, which I think is about 86 centimeters wide at its widest point. And this board was billed as an introductory windfoil board, and it is a dedicated windfoil board. It is definitely the type of board you probably want to get into if you're just learning and you're a little heavier and you want to have enough volume to uphaul a bigger sail. And it is 160 liters, so it definitely does have the volume that you'd want, even as a bigger guy. I'm 200 pounds, and no problems having the stability and the flotation necessary to uphaul any sail that I use on this. And I do find that I have found that it's been a good experience for me in general, learning to foil on this particular platform. My thought concept here was I wanted a board that was obviously something that catered towards beginner windfoilers, but also had I wanted the volume and the length so that if I had any issues where I had to slog back from back to shore when the wind died, that I would be able to do so easily. And this checks all the boxes that I needed to learn how to windfoil. And I don't know how many sessions I have on this thing. It's a lot, 40, 50 sessions perhaps. And generally good experience. So I'm going to go over some of the things that I really like about the board and some of the things that I don't like about the board for your consideration. And kind of give you a performance wrap-up, performance review of at least my experience. So in general, I felt like the board was a good investment for me. I turned 50, and I was like, I gotta learn how to windfoil now while I'm still young enough to learn. I'm, pretty fit, and I felt like I need to get on this before it passes me by. And I'm really glad I did. Spent the money, of course, thanks to East of Maui in Annapolis for helping me out with the purchase of this board and a variety of foils and sails and whatnot. And I'll go over those later. So what can I tell you about this board, first of all? The things that I like about it. Well, I like the fact that the deck is padded. About half of the deck is padded, and it's a decent padding material, kind of like any other EVA foam and this diamond pattern. I find it's perfectly good for what its intended purpose is. The foot straps were good, thick and comfortable and wide. So good all around on the foot straps. If I'd say there's one thing I don't like about the foot straps is that there's just really no good way to keep them from twisting. They've got these mechanisms. I don't know if you can see that. It's got this one screw with one of those clamps in there with the teeth, and it seems like no matter how hard you screw them down, and you're going to have to screw them down with if you don't want them to twist much, you're going to have to use like a power tool with the right bit so you don't strip the heads out. But it just seems like no matter what you do, they're always going to want to twist. These are pretty tight. They haven't twisted much, but they are in there rather tight. When I first started, I went to the inboard foot strap positions, found very quickly I really wanted to be further outboard, a little more leverage over the foil. So that's where I've been, a little further forward on the front one, a little further back on the back one, and now I'm feeling like I want to be further outboard. I've actually toyed with the idea of adding additional inserts so that I get my feet further outboard. So you can see here, one thing I did to kind of customize is I added padding, some other EVA that I had lying around. I added it to the rail because I felt my heel was constantly out over the rail and it was starting to hurt my heel. So I slapped this on and it's been great. It's really done a good job. Kind of similar to what I had done on the Super Light Wind if you had seen that video, but that was for slightly different reason because they didn't put the foot pads on symmetrically on that board, which I found very annoying. But anyway, I did the same thing here, works great, and I probably could use the same out here, especially if I decide to move this front strap outboard. If you look at all the new race equipment, the race foil boards, that front strap is really far out now, and of course those boards are getting really, really wide. I guess they're up to 1 meter wide on the course race foils. 91, I guess, is the limit for the slalom. But anyway, I think that for all around free for all around sailing. Free foil sailing, these positions will probably be fine for everybody. I think you'll quickly gravitate towards the outboard settings when you get going. And, you know, if you're really wanting to be further out, you probably should be on a race board. And that's, I think, where I'm probably headed. So right now, this has been my one foil board for all the foil sailing that I do. And one of the things that's really cool about foiling is, you know, you can get away with one board for everything. And literally, I have sailed this board now from a 4.5 all the way up to an 8.5. And I probably could have gone smaller. I probably could have gone like with a 3.7 if I had one in my quiver when it's really windy. I use this with, well, there's an interesting mix of sails that I use currently. I use some really old sails that I have in my quiver on the lower end. I've got I'm serious, I have a 1993 North Spectro 2-cam slalom, really small slalom sail, and it works phenomenally well because it's really light, it's tight leach, it's super stable for a 4.5, I don't care if it gets destroyed. And while I'm learning in heavier air, it's perfect for what I'm doing. So you know, I rig it with a 400 mast and a short boom, and it's got a nice tuning range to it, and it really, really works out well. Similarly, I have another old North Convertigo, which is a 1-cam, really high aspect sail. It's an interesting sail that they had back in the mid-90s. It's got a mix of materials in it. It uses a maxed out, it uses a 460 mast for a 5.7. That's a pretty high aspect, a pretty short boom. And, you know, kind of a high clue, which isn't ideal, but when you use it, it's probably blowing 20 knots. So, again, really light and stable, and it works perfectly. And if I destroy it eventually, oh well, you know, it's served its purpose. So, you know, I would definitely urge folks to, you know, when they start foiling, to use older sails when they're learning, because you're going to probably put your hook through it and you're going to fall into the damn thing. And it's just, you know, why not if you got them lying around? The cams seem to help some. I used the Convertigo with the single cam. I tried it without the cam, and I thought, you know, the cam's just better. Sail feels a little more stable. It has a little more power. And so I put the cam back in. Now on the upper end, I've got two new sails, thanks to Ezzy. I've got a 7.0 and an 8.5 Ezzy Hydra Pros. And these have been fantastic. Last year I sailed with a 7.0 almost exclusively with this board, except for when it got windy. And the 7.0 was perfect anywhere from, I mean, I could pump this board up onto foil in about 10 knots with the 84 or the Slingshot 84 wing. 10 knots. That's pretty amazing. I could pump it up, and I'd probably be still flying through 8 knots. And it took about 12 knots just when you started to see whitecaps where I could really get onto foil without pumping much, and where I could start to point. I could start to sail decent angles. In 10, 11 knots, you're kind of reaching more than anything. You can still point a bit, but really you're kind of reaching. So that sail, the 7.0, works great with this board. Perfect for me for most conditions, 10 to 18 knots maybe. And now I just recently bought the 2020 Ezzy Hydra Pro 8.5. I just wanted to go see if I could go a click down on the wind scale, and I used it one time, and I definitely was able to get up in less than 10 knots, and I was ghosting through wind that was impossibly light, which was a little scary because when I turned around, I couldn't get back on the foil and had to slog my way back to shore. Early March, maybe a little, not what you want to be doing. But the Ezzy Hydras have been great for this board. So definitely highly recommend those sails for their power and their tuning range and their durability, and frankly, incredible support from Ezzy to help me get those things dialed in. So back to the board, the Slingshot. I'm going to give you one big tip here, and the first thing I did when I bought this board was I called NSI and I ordered the pad, the same pad that I have on the Superlight Wind. It's the same exact pad. It's like the extra large, custom made pad. It's, I don't know what it is, 40 bucks or something, worth every penny. But here's a mistake that I made when I installed it. I put it, if you can see, let me see, I'm holding this the wrong way. I can do this. I put it too far back.